So we are reading Zero Limits by Joe Vitale and Dr. Hugh Lin. We are on chapter 13 of the book, page number 163 and 163 of the PDF also.
Cigars, hamburgers, and killing the divine.
Shivangla, your voice is cracking. Please come closer to the...
Cigars, hamburgers, and killing. Cigars, hamburgers, and killing the divine. Cleaning helps reduce the mortgage on your soul. Dr. Ihalyakala Hewlin. One day, Dr. Hewlin wanted to get something to eat. It was on a Monday evening. We were in my small town where everybody is busy entertaining tourists on the weekend and often closes on Monday to recover. There was only one place open that I could think of, a hamburger joint called Burger Barn. I didn't want to even mention the place, as I figured Dr. Hewlin would not want unhealthy food. Plus, with my lifestyle change and new eating habits, I didn't dare even drive near a fast food place. But I told Dr. Hewlin about it anyway. A burger sounds great, he said, obviously excited. Are you sure? I asked. Oh, yeah, I love a good burger. We drove to the place and parked. We went in and sat. The menu didn't have much on it of a healthy food choice nature. I'll have a double meat, double cheese burger on a white bun, Dr. Hewlin ordered. I was stunned. That was heart attack food, in my opinion. Meat, cheese, and a white bun? I couldn't believe it. I also couldn't believe that I ordered the same thing. I figured if it was good enough for the shaman, it ought to be good enough for me. Aren't you worried about the cheese and meat and bread? I asked him. Not at all, he said. I have a chili dog every morning for breakfast. I love this stuff. You do? It's not the food that is dangerous. It's what you think about the food. I had heard that comment before, but I never believed it. I figured the solid trumped the thought, but maybe I was wrong. He went on to explain, before I eat anything, in my mind, I say to the food, I love you, I love you. If I am bringing anything into this situation that would cause me to feel ill, as I'm eating you, it's not you. It's not even me. It's something that triggers that I am willing to be responsible for. I then go on and enjoy the meal because now it's clean.
Okay, so what is he saying over here? It is our attitude, it is our perception which makes the difference, right? Because if you believe in something, if something is in your belief system, it is bound to start affecting you. So we need to be aware of what we are believing in when we are doing something. So again, it's the state of consciousness, it's the state of perception with which whatever we are doing actually matters. So if I think and I consider the food to be all right for me, and I'm willing to be 100% responsible for what I am doing, then it is okay.
Once again, his insights startled me and awakened me. I had spent so much time reading about health issues and food warnings that I was so paranoid I couldn't enjoy a simple hamburger. I decided to clean on it. When the food arrived, we ate it with gusto. This hamburger is the best I've ever had, he announced. He was so impressed that he went and asked for the cook and then thanked him. The cook wasn't used to people acknowledging his deep fried burgers. He didn't know what to say. Neither did I.
So again, over here, the basic point is that he enjoyed doing whatever he did. He had a good time, and he was willing to be grateful for the people who had a hand in bringing it to him. So I'm sure that Dr. Hewlin would have acted the same way in with anything that he would have eaten, right? So if we have this kind of an attitude, then do you ever think that you're going to get anything bad in your life? Because it's your attitude, it's how something is occurring to you that makes the difference in your life. If you can focus properly, if you can focus in an uplifting manner in whatever is happening to you, then nothing is going to go wrong ever in your life. So that's the state of consciousness, that's the state of awareness in which Dr. Hewlin is constantly operating.
When I gave Dr. Hewlin a tour of my home, including my gym, I held my breath. I keep cigars in my gym. It seems ironic to work out in the morning and smoke in the evening. But there you go. That's my life. But I worried that Dr. Hewlin might say something about my smoking. I showed him my various types of equipment, pictures of famous bodybuilders on the wall, and the certificates I've received for the fitness contests I've been in. I tried to steer him away from the cigars sitting on a bench, but he noticed them. What's this? He asked. Cigars, I said with a sigh. You smoke working out? No, no, but I do in the evening, I explained. It's my meditation time. I sit on the deck, smoke, and feel gratitude for my life.
Now, this is important, right? So he says he sits on his deck, cools himself down, and makes himself grateful for whatever is happening in his life. So now, even when he's smoking, he's using that smoking as a trigger to go into an altered state, which is taking him into gratitude, right? So this. I mean, you can even imagine yourself that okay, you're sitting on that deck and you're having that cigar and you're going into a meditative state and you're feeling grateful for everything in your life, right? Just closing your eyes and imagining that itself, I think creates a shift. So you can understand that, yeah, it is a powerful process that he was actually doing. Although he was smoking.
No, no, but I do in the evening, I explained. It's my meditation time. I sit on the deck, smoke, and feel gratitude for my life. He was silent for a moment. I was waiting for him to rattle off all the statistics showing why smoking is bad for you. Finally, he spoke. I think it's beautiful. You do? I asked. I think you should smoke a cigar with your Panos car. What do you mean? Have a picture taken of me in front of Francine with a cigar in my hand? Maybe, but I was thinking you can smoke while you polish her or dust her down. I
So what is he saying over here, right? So you're smoking while you're polishing and dusting, right? Now, what are you doing when polishing or dusting? You are cleaning, right? So you're cleaning while you're smoking. So he's attaching the two together.
I thought you were going to ridicule me for smoking, I finally told him. One person read my blog, saw I mentioned cigars, and wrote me that I was putting toxins into my body and hurting myself. I guess that person never heard of the American Indian custom of passing the peace pipe, he said, or how smoking in many tribes is a rite of passage and a way to bond and share and be a family.
This is important, right? Now, the tobacco ceremony was a very, very important ceremony in the American Indian culture, right? They used to sit around in a circle and pass the pipe from one to the other, and it used to help them to go into deep meditative states, into deep states of contemplation. Whenever they had a conference of all the people in the tribe, and they were taking big decisions for the future of the tribe, the smoking pipe always used to go around. Now, tobacco, there's a healing method also, whereby a person actually smokes the tobacco and then blows the smoke onto you. And it's a very powerful shamanic healing process using tobacco, the spirit of tobacco, to heal whatever is happening in another person. So, literally speaking, anything can be turned into a sacred kind of an endeavor. It all depends on the attitude and the belief systems that you're following whenever you're doing something.
I was once again learning that the key for Dr. Hewlin is to love everything. When you do, that thing changes. Smoking is bad when you think it is bad. Hamburgers are bad when you think they are bad. As with everything in the ancient Hawaiian traditions, it all begins with thought, and the great healer is love.
So,
I was finally beginning to understand him and how important it is to get to the zero limits state.
so again, very clearly he's saying it all depends on what you are thinking. And if you begin and end with love, right? If you love what you're doing, then it is absolutely all right. So if you look at it from the awareness way, if you're operating from the right side of the grid, then things are perfectly okay, right? But the point is to be aware that we are on the right side of the grid. Most of the time, let me tell you, when you're not aware, 90% of the people, if you make them sit down with the grid, you'll find that they're operating on the left side of the grid. The basic idea, again, repeatedly he's saying in this chapter, is to operate from love, is to operate from the right side of the grid.
But not everyone felt the same as me. One night, I went on a teleseminar and told everyone about my experiences with Dr. Hewlin, most of which I've told you here. They listened attentively. They asked questions. They seemed to understand what I was explaining. But to my surprise, at the end of the call, they resumed their normal way of thinking. While all agreed that we need to take 100% responsibility for our lives, they were again talking about others. While all agreed that the cleaning method Dr. Hewlin taught me was powerful, they again went back to old habits.
So, so this becomes extremely important. When you hear something, but you've not really experienced it, right? It's not grouted in your system. It doesn't become wisdom. So the idea is that when you're hearing something, you need to practice it. You need to at least experience it before rejecting it. Now, you may accept it, but if you've not practiced it, it is not going to sink into your system, because someone else can come and say something and change your thinking process about it. So, as I keep repeating all the time, there are two aspects to wisdom. One is the information or the knowledge, and the other is the experience. So, what these people were experiencing here was only the knowledge. Now, they didn't experience it, right? So, now they'll go back to their old ways. Until you experience something and you have the knowledge of it, it doesn't shift your state of consciousness. That's what I like about the Monroe process, is that you get the information and then you get the experience. And that is what causes when both of them come into conjunction with each other, that's what causes the shifts in people who experience the excursion workshop. Okay. So it's very important that you have the knowledge and the experience. Otherwise, it's about neural pathways, right? Because you've been used to doing something, there are habits which are ingrained. You simply shift back into the old habit. because the neural pathways are very set. It's like a bullock cart with those, when the bullock cart is traveling on the same road, the ruts get made. Okay. So now what happens is that you put the bullock cart on the rut and then you don't even bother what is happening. The bullock cart will go on the rut only. Now, if I want to get out of the rut, then I have to pay attention. I have to do something differently for the bullock cart to get out of the rut. It's the same thing with us, because it's very easy to fall back into the old way of doing stuff unless we pay attention to what we are doing. Only then we can actually shift out.
One person said, I don't want to say I'm sorry because whatever I say after I am is what I will become. I wanted to say, well, we can clean on that, knowing that her statement was just a belief. But I simply said, Dr. Hewlin says, do whatever works for you.
So again, this is extremely important. We need to figure out what will work for us. You cannot force anyone to do anything. The best we can do is put it in front of them. Let them experience it for themselves and then come back. So even in the workshops, we keep telling people that we are giving you the tools, right? Go and experiment and then come back and tell us how you used it. One prime example, again, I'm mentioning is Ushaji's method of the memory encoding. I think it's become so powerful, it's not funny, right? The point is that tool, I've been talking about that tool for the last 8 years, and no one came up with this, that I can use it with the tool like this. With the Reball, many people have come up with innovative ideas, but just see the beauty of it, how that simple tool can become so powerful for us. Okay. The more you use them, the tools that we are getting, and then you apply them, and then when people come back and tell us that they've used it like this, we pass it on to the participants, and we talk in discussion forums like we have, and that's what makes it alive, that's what makes it vitalized, right? And more ways of using the process. So over here again, we need to do whatever works for us. How do we combine them? How do we combine the tools to make it work for us? That's totally up to us.
I admit, at first I found this frustrating, but then I realized I had to clean on this too. After all, if I take 100% responsibility for what I experience, I am experiencing them. And if the only tool with which to clean is I love you, then I need to clean on what I see in others, as what I see in others is in me.
So
This
again,
may be the hardest part of Ho'oponopono to understand. There's nothing out there, it's all in you. Whatever you experience inside yourself.
so again, this is very, very important. Taking 100% responsibility. The basic point over here he is making is that whatever you are experiencing, you are experiencing. And who's experiencing, you are experiencing. And who's the creating the experience, you are creating the experience. So we need to take 100% responsibility. And again, this is something that we read in the Dark Side of the Light Chasers, that you will notice whatever you resonate with. So if you are noticing something, or if you are experiencing something, that experience is resonating with you. That is why you are experiencing it. If there was no resonance in you, then you would not be experiencing it, right? So we need to take 100% responsibility. And the more we understand that the the microcosm is in the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is in the microcosm, and everything affects everything else, and there is nothing different from what is, we will not create that shift, right? So he says very clearly, it's all in you. Whatever you experience inside yourself. So it's an inner journey, actually, not an outer journey. In the OBE program that we are now conducting, William Bullman clearly says this, that an out of body experience is not going out, it's going in, right? And that's what that experience is, going to our central core, to experience what we truly are.
One person challenged me on this issue by asking, what about the 50 million people who voted for the president I don't like? Clearly, I had nothing to do with their actions. Where do you experience those 50 million people? I asked. What do you mean, where do I experience them? He countered. I read about them, I see them on television, and it's a fact they voted for him. But where do you experience all that information? In my head, as news. Inside yourself, right? I asked. Well, I process the information inside myself, yes, but they are outside of me. I don't have 50 million people in me. Actually, you do, I said. You experience them in you, so they don't exist unless you look within yourself. But I can look out and see them. You see them inside yourself, I stated. Everything you process is in you. If you don't process it, it doesn't exist. Is this like if a tree falls in a forest and no one is there, does it make a sound? Exactly. This is crazy. Exactly, I said, but it's the way home. I then decided to test him even further. I asked, can you tell me what your next thought will be? He was quiet for a moment. He wanted to blurt out an answer, but realized he couldn't.
So again, the main thing is this, right? If anything is affecting you, if anything is troubling you, if you didn't know about it, then it would not trouble you. So the point is that our experience is actually an internal experience. We think that the external is what the experience is all about, but it's actually happening all inside us. Because if we didn't pay attention, if we were not aware of it, then we would not experience it. So in actual fact, everything is occurring inside us. And we are observing how something is, how the experience is about how the thing is occurring to us. If we shift the way that it is occurring to us, we shift the full experience. Okay.
No one can predict the next thought, I explained. You can verbalize it once it occurs to you. But the thought itself arises from your unconscious. You have no control over it. The only choice you have is once the thought appears to act on it or not.
So what does it imply over here? We've been talking about this, that the thought occurs in our conscious awareness, in the small guy. But where does the thought come from? It comes from the big guy, right? So we, in from the small guy really doesn't know what's the next thought going to be, because the small guy is not creating the thought. The thought is actually getting created by the big guy. So it pops up from below the line. So it comes from inside us, right? And then we experience this thought in our conscious awareness.
I don't follow. You can do any number of things once the thought arises, but it's being generated in your unconscious, I explained. In order to clean the unconscious so you get better thoughts, you have to do something else, such as, well, I'm writing a whole book about it, I replied, referring to this book you're reading. And what does this have to do with the 50 million people out there? There's no more out there than your own thoughts are, I said. It's all inside you. All you can do is clean in order to clean out the storehouse of programs in your mind. As you clean, the thoughts that arise get more positive and productive and even loving. I still think all of this is batty, he said. I'll clean on that, I replied.
So what is he meaning over here, right? Now he's saying that unless you change the way that you're doing something, you will not get a different result. So that example we keep using, if you're using the process to make aloo jeera, you cannot expect aloo dum, right? Now, if we are operating out of memory, then whatever that memory is dictating, that is what is going to result. So until we clear out the memory, we make a fresh field available. It's like when a farmer wants to plant a new crop, first he has to clear the field of the old crop. Only then the farmer can plant a new crop. Like that, unless we clean our thinking process, we get rid of the cobwebs that are there in our system, we will not be able to shift our state of conscious awareness. And ultimately, it's all about cleaning. The more you clean, the more you clear yourself, the more you go into zero. So you allow inspiration in rather than working from memory.
Most likely, he never got it. But if I'm to get to zero limits, I have to take total responsibility for him not getting it. His memory is my memory. His program is my program. The very fact that he voiced it to me means I share it with him. So, as I get clear of it, so will he. As I'm writing this, I'm saying I love you in my thoughts, behind the words, behind the typing, behind the computer, behind the scenes. My saying I love you as I work, write, read, play, talk, or think is my attempt to do non-stop cleaning, erasing, and clearing of anything and everything between me and zero. Can you feel the love?
So, so what are we talking about here? So what are we talking about here? That we are constantly clearing. And the more clearing that we do, the more in sync that we become, the more in sync everything around us starts to become. The more in equanimity we are, the cleaner we are, and the cleaner everything around us is. The basic point is with what is the state of consciousness that we are operating at, what is the level we are operating at, which side of the grid we are operating at. I think these two tools are extremely powerful in allowing us to understand where we are operating from. Yes, Pooja, please start your video, Pooja. Yeah, go
Ram,
ahead, Pooja. Ram Ram.
Ram, Ram. Masaji, I wanted to ask. So you said that we are supposed to operate from uh, uh, inspiration and not from memory,
Yes.
and but my truth is something else, and somebody else's truth is another truth. So how am I supposed to they are operating from their belief system, and my belief system is different. So at that so at a particular situation, so a situation is happening at a particular time, how am I supposed to react at that time so that my karmic cycle doesn't go any further? I'm supposed to stay neutral. How do I do that?
So
um,
one second, when you are saying that you are operating from your belief system and they are operating from their belief system, is it a memory, your belief system, is it a memory or is it inspired?
it's a memory.
So if you're operating from memory, what are you going to get?
It's a
You'll get
karmic.
the same result, right? You're not going to get a different result.
No, but then suppose the situation just happens out of random.
Forget about what the other guy is doing. You need to see what you're doing, right? You have no, I mean, in the sense that you can only look at what is happening inside yourself and clear yourself. When you clear yourself, then automatically everything around you will start getting clean. You are also holding on to your memory, right? If the other person is holding on to their memory, you are also holding on to your memory.
Yeah, but how am I supposed to react at that
So
moment,
that
Mataji?
the point is to clean. You have to clear, right? Say I love you. I care for you. I am accepting you as you are. First, you need to accept it. You need to change your perception about that situation before you can start affecting that situation within yourself.
No, so suppose it's an impromptu situation. So suddenly, say, suppose, so it just sudden random discussion suddenly happens
So
with somebody.
how when do you when if you are reacting, are you operating out of memory or are you operating out of inspiration?
Absolutely out of memory.
Out of memory. So what are we constantly saying in this book? That if you are operating out of memory, big problem,
Right, right.
right? So you need to drop the memory.
So
Now,
then at that moment, what do I do, Masaji?
so you
Just
need to, at that moment, it will not work. Now, you need to keep cleaning yourself to get into equanimity and equilibrium all the time.
तो फिर मासाजी वो टाइम so then I have lost that moment in that
Correct.
sense.
So, but now this moment is still with you, right? So, are you clearing right now? Or are you stuck with your memory?
Yeah, so I can do it later, but that
Later,
moment
nahi,
not.
bhaiya. It is a 24/7 affair, Pooja.
हाँ.
You have to keep clearing yourself, so that when a situation arises, you are still clear. You are not getting affected by the situation. You are still managing to maintain your equanimity, your centeredness, so that you can be empirical. You can allow the inspiration in when that situation occurs and respond rather than react.
Oh, okay, okay.
Have you got what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you need to keep clearing yourself.
Right.
Your belief system is your belief system, but the other guy is operating from another belief system. Now,
Right.
what makes you think your belief system is right and that other person's
No,
belief
no,
system is not
that is
correct?
fair. That is fair.
Isn't it? So now we
Yeah.
need to let go of our beliefs. How can we ask the other guy to let go of his belief
No, no, no,
system?
no, not that, not that.
We can't ask that of the other guy, but we
No,
can
no,
let
no,
go of
no.
our belief system, right?
Definitely. No, I was talking about how do I change, how do I not react at that
So
point,
that's the point. You need to keep clearing yourself,
keep
right?
clearing
You need to
myself.
get rid of your stuff, the baggage that you're carrying.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
moment you start getting rid of the baggage, you drop the rocks in your backpack. We've spoken about the grid, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
observe where you're operating from.
yeah, yeah.
When you get upset, which side of the grid are you on?
On the left side.
So now that answers your question, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So
Just a
you
second.
need to figure out how to be on the right side.
Yeah,
Basically, that's the game that you need to play.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
प्रणाम आशा जी।
Ram Ram.
राम राम आशा जी, प्रणाम। आशा जी, इसी क्वेश्चन से लिंक्ड ही एक वो था आशा जी, जैसे मतलब अगर कोई डिस्कशन है और जो मतलब अपना व्यू पॉइंट डिफरेंट है, तो उस केस में मतलब उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू डिफरेंट हो सकता है, तो फिर डिस्कशन वहीं से ही तो स्टार्ट होता है कि भाई।
तो इस केस में क्या हो रहा था? जो विटाली इज टेलिंग द गाय समथिंग एंड ही इज सेइंग दिस इज क्रैपी, दिस पॉटी, right? So there's a difference. So what did he say? Okay, I have my opinion, you have your opinion, I'm cleaning on it. I'm cleaning on both the opinions.
अच्छा,
So the
बट
more you clear, the more you clean yourself, the more on the same page everyone will become. So this is something that we are seeing with the reball also, because you're going into an expanded state and then putting a reball onto the state. We've seen that people, when they come onto a meeting and you put the reball, because you've shifted your state of consciousness and it creates a shift in everyone in the meeting, it's easier to come on the same page than if you're not doing it. You understand? So the point is of clearing. Even the reball is a clearing tool. You're cleaning. The
बट
I love you, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you is a cleaning tool. So we are constantly cleaning. We need to keep clearing our field. That's the game that we need to play.
ठीक है, और उस टाइम लेकिन जो डिस्कशन होगा उसमें भी डिफरेंस इन ओपिनियन तो
You put your
उसका।
point across and have a empirical decision, right? Be open to accepting if the other guy is right. It's very
ठीक है,
simple. No? If we are open, only then the other guy will be open. If we are
हाँ,
rigid, then the other guy is also rigid. We are operating from memory. He's also operating from memory.
ठीक
The
है।
moment we allow inspiration in, because if the other guy is telling you something,
हम्म,
then that may be coming as an inspiration, right?
हम्म,
If something is coming in, it can be an
बराबर,
inspiration. So let's be open to the inspiration.
ठीक है, बिल्कुल ठीक है।
Thank you, Masaji. Ram Ram.
थैंक यू मैम।
One morning, Dr. Hewlin said he saw a logo for me containing a four-leaf clover. The fourth petal is gold like a tongue, he said. He spent several minutes describing what he was seeing in his mind or in the air. I'm not sure where he was getting his impression, neither was he. You need to find an artist to sketch the logo for you, he said. Later, we went for a walk into town. We had lunch and then visited a few shops. The first shop contained stained glass art. We were both impressed. As we admired the shopkeeper's handiwork, she said, if you ever need a logo or a sketch, we can draw it for you.
So this is where inspiration comes in, right? Dr. Hugh was getting inspired. uh, he was seeing a logo drop in, right? So it was a inspiration coming in. And as they walked out, when you operate out of inspiration, then synchronicity starts to happen in your life. Things start to suddenly fall in place, right? So now what happened? They went into that shop and that shopkeeper is saying that if you want a logo, I can do it for you. So this was synchronicity.
Dr. Hewlin grinned and leaned in my direction, as I grinned and leaned in his. Coming from zero meant synchronicity happened. While I was writing this section of the book, I had to stop to be interviewed for another movie. This one is like The Secret, but focused on getting healthy with your thoughts. I began the interview by saying thoughts weren't as important as no thoughts. I tried to explain the zero limit state of being where you allow the divine to heal you, not you heal yourself. I wasn't sure why I was saying all this. A part of me questioned my sanity, but I went with the flow.
So this is really beautiful, right? He very clearly says, I began the interview by saying thoughts weren't as important as no thoughts. Now, whenever you are having a thought, basically you're operating out of memory. When you have no thought, you're in that stillness, right? That is when the inspiration can come in. Of course, the inspiration also is a thought, but the if you have a clutter of thoughts, the monkey mind is churning and working all the time, then that inspiration cannot come. You cannot understand when that inspiration comes in, right? Now again, when we are doing biofield tuning, what I've started to find is when we are raising the sun star back into position, it gets stuck in the mouth area. Very clear indicating that I'm getting is that the person is having roundabout thoughts, constantly thinking about the same thing and not doing anything about it, right? Now every thought is eating into your energy. Now if you're thinking of something, the other thought cannot come in. So it's going gar 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 like a big broken down record player. So there is no place for inspiration to come in. Only when you still your mind, right, is when inspiration comes in. Again, the Monroe process takes you so beautifully in that state of no thought that it's not really funny, right? All the people who've experienced the excursion, I think, will vouch for it, that you feel that state of no thought and you allow yourself to get into an inspiration state. And when you're in that state, automatic healing starts to take place. And of course, when you start talking like that, then most people who are not into it will think that you are crazy, but that's perfectly all right. So he says, I went with the flow.
After the camera was turned off, the woman observing it all almost blurted out that she heals people by entering the zero state. It turned out she is a physician who now heals animals by entering the no thought, zero limit state of being while in the presence of the ill animals. She showed me pictures of dogs with cataracts and then after photos when they are completely healed. Once again, the divine was proving that the divine has all the power, not me. I can just clean so I can hear it and obey you.
So again, very beautifully put over here. When we are in the zero state, when we are in equanimity, when we are connected to our center, then wherever we go, automatic healing starts to take place. If a person is agitated, irritated, annoyed, angry, the healing cannot take place. Why? Because you're in a depleting spiral. When we are in that uplifting spiral, we are centered still within ourselves. Wherever we go, the healing will take place. They say, I mean, again, coming back to spiritual masters who are in that centered state, the moment you go into their presence, automatically you start getting healed. You have questions in your mind. Without asking the question gets answered. I think all of us must have experienced this at some point in our life, I'm sure. And this automatically happens. But that's the state of that equanimity, that stillness, that centeredness, which allows us to experience that.
Rashmi ji, are you saying something? You have to put up your hand for to be unmuted.
Rashmi ji, are you saying something? Please unmute.
Yes.
बोलिए रश्मि जी.
आप क्लस्टर ऑफ थॉट्स के लिए बोल रहे थे, तो वो स्टेट कैसे ठीक होगा? जैसे माइंड में जब कुछ थॉट्स चलता रहता है तो वो कैसे ठीक हो? होपोनोपो से कभी कभी ठीक हो जाता है.
तो पहले तो आपको ऑब्जर्व करना पड़ेगा आपके पे थॉट्स आ रहे हैं. ओके, I would strongly recommend join the excursion workshop. It's happening this weekend. Strongly recommend you to join that program. And you will understand and experience that state of no thought.
Okay.
Okay. चलिए.
Last night, I spent an hour and a half on the phone with a best-selling author and self-help guru. I've been a fan of his for years. I love all his books. I'm a groupie for his message. Since he also likes my work, we finally connected and talked. But I was stunned by what we talked about. This personal growth expert narrated a horrifying true story of his last couple of years. He had been victimized and abused by someone he loved. While I listened, I wondered how he could say he was a victim when his published message was about taking responsibility for your life. It began to dawn on me that almost everyone, even the self-help experts who try to teach us how to live, including me, don't have a clue what they are doing. They are still missing a piece of the puzzle. They get to a point where they think what worked in the past for them will work at all times in the future and for everyone else. But life isn't like that. We are all different and life is always changing. Just when you think you have figured it out, along comes a new wrench and your life looks out of hand once again.
This is very important what he has said over here, right? Everything keeps changing and we need to keep changing and adjusting ourselves also. And again, keep clearing ourselves. So we have to actually kind of, it's not the right way to say it, but I don't have any other way to express this. We have to keep working on ourselves to be centered. The moment you let go, boom, you will start shifting out. So it's very important to keep your awareness, to keep focused on what is happening around you. If you get stuck with something, then again, you're operating out of memory. We have to constantly keep growing. It's like when water stagnates, it starts to rot. So if we stagnate, we also rot. So it's very important that we keep doing new things, keep learning new things. bringing new processes into our system so that we can keep adjusting and using. So that's why when we say in awareness, the toolbox that you have, we need to keep building our toolbox. Let me tell you, many of us will forget the tools also, but it's there in the system. The moment you pick up your manual and again read it, you'll find that that system will come back to you, right? And you can build on your toolbox. And the more you use something, the more yours it becomes, right? So we need to constantly grow and not stagnate. And this is very important as we are growing physically older, chronicle age-wise, that we need to keep our brain active. And if you don't do something new, then the brain doesn't get activated because it goes into auto mode. Okay, so this is a question that we ask many people, and all of you can introspect on it, that when was the last time you did something new? Think about it. Let me tell you, 90% of the people that when we ask this question, they have to really think when was the last time they did something new. Okay, so it's important to start doing something new. The new thing can be as simple as, I was brushing my teeth with my right hand, I started brushing it with my left hand. And you see how much attention you have to pay to that act of brushing your teeth when you just make that small shift. So you become more present, you become more aware by just that small act. Whenever you're doing something new, you have to pay attention. When you're doing something that you've been doing for a long time, you don't have to pay attention. And when you pay attention, you come into the present. That's again a way of pulling yourself into the center. Yes, Renuji.
Bhaiya, that means we are doing something new every day with you.
I don't think so.
No, why? Every time we are learning something new, so that itself is good enough, no?
No.
Don't need to try anything further.
Not good enough. I don't accept that.
Because we are learning a different meditation. We learn a different form of...
See, a lot of it is being repeated now. Okay. So you need to do something new otherwise also. Cook a dish in a different way.
Okay.
Go and polish your own shoes in a different way. Brush your teeth in a different way. Wipe your body in a different way. So there are so many things you can do new, na? Small things. It doesn't have to be a big
now
thing.
We are doing something new, Bhaiya. Every time we are doing something new, according to me. We are doing so many new things.
अभी ये book पढ़ रहे हैं, तो book तो is ठीक है. We are reading maybe something new, but the book we are reading is the same book.
Yeah,
we're doing the same meditation. So after some time, it becomes mundane, na? Until you attend another program, you get another tool.
Then 9:15, we listen to a new subject which we haven't heard
that
about.
Is definitely new.
That itself is new.
Correct.
So
but that's happening once a week only now.
No, it's happening.
That newness, at least it's happening that in this 1.5 years, yes.
चलिए ठीक है, accepted.
Dr. Hewlin's work teaches us to let go and trust the divine while constantly cleaning on the thoughts and experiences that surface in the way of hearing the divine. By this continuous work, we can clear the weeds of programs so we can better handle life with ease and grace.
So very clearly, we just need to keep clearing the old programs that run us. So simply being put, we need to clear the memory and then start operating from zero.
As I listened to the self-help author narrate his journey of woes, I kept saying, I love you quietly inside my mind to the divine. By the time he was done talking, he seemed lighter and happier.
So what was occurring in Joe Vitale's state when that person was narrating, he was clearing that. And as he cleared himself, it also cleared the author.
As Dr. Hewlin keeps reminding me and everyone else, the divine is not a concierge. You don't ask for things, you just clean. I love spending time with Dr. Hewlin. He never seemed to mind my questions. One day, I asked him if there were any advanced methods for cleaning. After all, he has been doing Ho'oponopono for more than 5 years. Surely he's created or received some other methods besides I love you to clear memories.
So again, he says over here, you don't ask for things. If something is occurring in your life, it's a lack. You clear on it and give it to divinity for the best to manifest.
What do you do these days to clean? I asked. He chuckled and said, kill the divine. I was stunned. Kill the divine, I repeated, wondering what he meant. I know that even inspiration is one step removed from the zero state, he explained. I'm told that I have to kill the divine to be home. But how do you kill the divine? Keep cleaning, he said. Always, always, always. It kept coming back to the one singular refrain that healed any and all wounds. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
So what is he saying over here very clearly, right? Even when you're operating from inspiration, you're one step away from zero state because you're still in a thought. Now, this is again Ramakrishna ji's story where his guru came and told him you have to cut the head off of Kalima. What was the reason? Because Ramakrishna ji had got stuck with Kalima, his inspiration. Now, to transcend that, to go into the next state, he had to actually kill Kalima so that he could go into the next state. So, he also was told to kill divinity. This is what he is talking about over here. We are not yet in that stage, so we don't need to kill divinity yet. Let's start operating more out of inspiration, and then maybe at some point it will come where we'll have to also transcend divinity.
When I was in Warsaw, Poland at the end of 2006, I decided to introduce the idea of zero limits and the zero stage to my audience. I had been there speaking for 2 days about hypnotic marketing and my book, The Attractor Factor. I found the people to be open-minded, loving, and eager to learn. So I taught them what I've shared with you here, that you are responsible for everything in your life and that the way to heal everything is with a simple I love you. Though the audience needed a translator for my presentation, they seemed to absorb my every word. But one person asked me an interesting question. People here in Poland spend all day praying to God and going to church. Yet we have had war, our city was bombed by Hitler, we lived under martial law for years, and we have suffered. Why didn't those prayers work? And what's different with this Hawaiian one? I paused to consider the right answer, wishing Dr. Hewlin was here to help me. In the moment, I gave the reply. People don't get what they say so much as what they feel. Most people who pray don't believe they will be heard or they will be helped. Most people pray from a place of desperation, which means they will attract more of what they are feeling, more desperation.
Now, this is really beautiful, right? So we have constantly been talking about thinking and feeling. If the two of them don't go together, we will not get anything that is going to manifest. Now I'm thinking something, I'm praying for something which is a thought, but I'm feeling that it will not manifest. It is never going to manifest until both of them come into conjunction. That the thing to materialize is very, very difficult because one is pulling us here and the other is pulling us there. So that's when that equanimity, that being centered, starts to again come into the place. Now he says here very clearly, most people pray from a place of desperation. Okay, which means they will attract more of what they are feeling, which is desperation. So they are only going to get what they are feeling or what is resonating in them. So if they are resonating with lack, that is what is going to manifest in their life. Yes, Raghuji?
Yes, sir. This leads to me to some idea that the prayer is done from a dualistic point of view. God is different from me. So it's like, that you are not cleaned. It's like taking vitamin C when your gut is not clean. It's not assimilated. How much prayer you receive, so long you are in a dual, from a point of, all of us pray from a point of duality. God is outside. I'm praying him to help me. We are this has been my question all the time, because why in India people pray much more than anywhere else in the world? Why are they not benefiting as much as they should? And this came up to me. The answer was that we are all operating from a duality purpose, which will help, but it's not helping as much as if you are understanding that we are all one and we take responsibility. Both are missing in our prayers.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. But when you look at when people are praying, most of the time they're praying to ask for something, right?
That's another thing, yes.
Yeah. So the idea basically is that if you can hand yourself over to divinity and
Surrender.
accept whatever is happening to you, I think that would be a more powerful prayer in my view than, going and asking
Exactly.
for something in your life, because you're asking from the small guy and the small guy really doesn't know what is good for you. So the more we hand ourselves over to divinity to operate us, we had a beautiful experience in the personal development program. One of the participants experienced a really powerful message where it was very clearly said to him, rather he ultimately said to that entity or that thing that came in the meditation, that I am handing myself over to you. You run me. Okay. And the explanation was so powerful and so beautiful. It really shifted everyone in the program. So the idea ultimately is, Raghuji, in my view, that the more we allow divinity to run us, the more in sync we are automatically going to become.
Yeah. That's what all the masters said, surrender totally.
Exactly.
Surrender totally. That's exactly what you need to do. That's what I mean also. When you are in duality, you cannot surrender.
Exactly.
My questioner seemed to understand and accept my answer. He nodded, but when I returned to the United States, I wrote Dr. Hewlin and asked him what he would have replied. He wrote back the following email. Ao Aqua, thank you for the opportunity to clean with whatever is going on in me that I experience as your question. An American showed up in the class that I did in Valencia, Spain, 2 years ago. My grandson was ill with cancer, she said to me in a break. I prayed for him, asked that he not die, but he died anyway. How come? You prayed for the wrong person, I said. Better to have prayed for yourself, asking forgiveness for whatever was going on in you that you experienced as your grandson being ill. People don't see themselves as the source of their experiences. Rarely are prayers directed at what is going on in the petitioner by the petitioner. Peace of I, Ehale Kala.
So beautifully put, right? We are always praying for the other guy that this don't happen, this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. And it is always a prayer which is outside us. But where are we experiencing the experience? It is inside us. So until we clear ourselves, we pray for ourselves, we allow ourselves to surrender, we allow ourselves to get into the flow, to jack, I keep saying jack into the flow, like a telephone jack going into the socket. Until we do that, the clearing around us will never take place. Let's finish this chapter. There's just 1.5 pages.
I love his perfectly honest answer. Again and again, his theme is that nothing is outside of us. When most people pray, they act like they have no power or responsibility. But in Ho'oponopono, you are totally responsible. The prayer is to ask for forgiveness for whatever is in you that caused the outer circumstance. The prayer is a reconnecting to the divine. The rest is trusting the divine to heal you. As you heal, so does the outer. Everything, without exception, is inside you.
Again, very clearly, right? When we are praying, even in India, as Raghuji said, we are always praying from an attitude that we don't have power. We don't have the power to manifest. We don't have the power to create. But the power to create exists within us, provided we allow it to manifest. We operate out of that equanimous state, right? We allow divinity to work through us. That is only when the clearing will take place. So the best thing that we can do is to look after ourselves, to clear ourselves, to clean ourselves, to get rid of all the memories that we have, all the depleting thoughts that we have, the depleting stuff that is keeping us on the left side of the grid. The moment we start focusing our attention and getting on the right side, then automatically you'll find that things start to get cleared in your life.
Larry Dossey said it well in his book, Healing Words. We need to recall at these times that prayer, in its function as a bridge to the absolute, has no failure rate. It works 100% of the time, unless we prevent this realization by remaining oblivious to it.
So this book, Healing Words, was a very good investigation of the power of prayer to heal. So in this book, what he actually did, they did a lot of experiments where they had two groups. One group of patients and similar, situations. They made two groups. One group was being prayed for by various groups, and the other one was not being prayed for. And they found that the group which was being prayed for healed much faster, and the recovery rate, etc., was much, much better than the group that was not prayed for. And we are seeing this happen in the healing group, in our awareness healing group. When people are getting the reball, I see that 90% of the people who have asked for the reball are responding that yes, the person is better, the healing has taken place, the operation went off better. Why? Because there's a group of people actually sending healing or sending intent or connecting with the divine and asking the divine to intervene, to help, right? So we are not helping, but we are petitioning the divine to help. That is what we are doing when we are sending the rebirth. So it actually works. So he says it works 100% of the time. That is why this or better, may the best manifest.
One thing bothered me about my work with Dr. Hewlin. As I kept growing and having insights, I worried that all my previous books were wrong and were going to mislead people. In The Attractor Factor, for example, I praised the power of intention. Now, years after writing that book, I knew intention is a fool's game, an ego's toy, and that the real source of power is inspiration. I also now knew that agreeing to life is the great secret to happiness, that not controlling life. Too many people, myself included, were visualizing and affirming in order to manipulate the world. I now knew that isn't necessary. You're better off going with the flow while constantly cleaning whatever comes up. I began to feel like Neville Goddard must have felt.
So this what he said over here is extremely important, right? But having said that, in my view, first we need to send an intent. We need to create a laksh. This is what even Nagarji says, that we have to have a laksh, right? But then what happens is that as we refine ourselves, the intent, the laksh starts to get higher and higher. The more powerful your intent. So even getting clean, getting into the flow, technically is an intent right? So you start with a smaller intent and we graduate to a more powerful and a higher intent. And over here, he clearly says that intention ultimately has to drop. Ultimately, you have to get into the flow. You have to get into inspiration. And then that inspiration will ultimately lead to that zero state, because even the inspiration will drop at a certain point, as we just discussed, that we have to even kill divinity. So it's a stepping stone. We must do it one step at a time.
I began to feel like Neville Goddard must have felt. Neville is one of my favorite mystical writers. His early books were about creating your own reality by turning feeling into fact. He called it the law in such books as The Law and The Promise. The law referred to your ability to influence the world with feeling. The promise referred to surrendering to God's will for you. Neville began his career by teaching people how to get what they want with what he called awakened imagination. The short description of that phrase refers to Neville's favorite quote: "Imagining creates reality." His first book was titled At Your Command, which I later updated. In it, he explained that the world is indeed at your command. Tell the divine or God what you want, and it will be delivered. But by Neville's later years, after 1959, he had awakened to a greater power, that of letting go and letting the divine operate through you. The thing is, he couldn't recall his earlier books like a car manufacturer might recall a defective car. I have no idea if they upset or not. I'm guessing not. He left them in the world because he felt the law was useful to help people get through the bumps in life. But I wanted to recall my books. I felt they were misleading people. I told Dr. Hewlin that I felt like I was doing a disservice to the world.
So again, the point was that even Neville's books, right, were stepping stones. First, you need to understand and experience that asking and the manifesting, and then understanding that we are operating from the small mind, and that small guy doesn't know everything, and we have to let the big guy start working, right, to surrender to that divinity. But it's a stepping stone. We can only get there once we pass. So it's like a rite of ascension. If we don't go through that, we are not really going to understand it. So it's important to allow the process.
Your books are like stepping stones, Dr. Hewlin explained. People are at various steps along the path. Your books speak to them where they are. As they use that book to grow, they become ready for the next book. You don't need to recall any books at all. They are all perfect.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I said, right? They're all stepping stones. As you grow, the next level starts to come up. It's like a video game, right? You cross one level and then only you can get to the next level. And the more proficient you get at crossing that one level, then it becomes easier to go to the next level. So when you restart the game, you go through the first few levels quicker. So that's the same game that is being played here.
As I thought of my books, of Neville, of Dr. Hewlin, and of all the readers past, present, and to come, all I could say was, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. Clean, clean, clean.
So